What destroys a man faster? His enemies, or the weakness he refuses to crush within himself? You see, rivals can wound you, but it is your own flaws that hand them the knife. Men cling to their fragility as if it were proof of their humanity, but in truth, it is nothing more than the leash by which they are led. Power is never stolen. It is surrendered by those who cannot master themselves, and the ones who rise are not those who are clever alone, but those ruthless enough to silence every crack in their armor. Do you dare to hear why? Weakness is never invisible. No matter how carefully you try to conceal it, the world has a way of sensing it, as predators sense the hesitation of prey. Men are not as merciful as they pretend. They are opportunists, always watching for a gap, a fracture, a vulnerability they might exploit. You may believe your weakness is small, insignificant, something others will overlook, but nothing invites attack more swiftly than a visible flaw, for it signals to others that you can be broken, that you are not whole, that you are prey before the hunt even begins. Those who show their weaknesses beg unconsciously for chains. The rival sees them as leverage, the ally sees them as burden, the enemy sees them as opening. Even those closest to you, if not bound by loyalty stronger than fear or advantage, will use your weakness to elevate themselves. It may not be immediate, but it will come, because power is never left untouched when it can be taken, and weakness, even the smallest, is a declaration that your power is incomplete. Understand this: the world does not comfort weakness, it exploits it. Compassion exists only when it does not cost power. When power is at stake, pity becomes a mask for conquest. What looks like sympathy is often calculation, and what looks like help often comes with a hidden chain. If you expose your weakness to others, you place yourself in their hands. You give them a key to unlock your defenses, and you invite them to use it when it serves their advantage. A man who fails to crush his weakness becomes predictable. His enemies know where he bends, where he trembles, what words unsettle him, what temptations draw him off course, and predictability is death. To be clever is to remain unreadable, untouchable, free from obvious cracks that others can exploit. Weakness, when left unchecked, shatters this freedom and makes you dependent on the mercy of others. Mercy that rarely exists. Crushing weakness requires more than denial. It requires ruthless honesty. You must look at yourself without illusions, without excuses, and without sentimentality. To pretend your weakness does not exist is to be destroyed by it. To acknowledge it, to dissect it, and then to eradicate it piece by piece is the path of the strong. This will demand sacrifice, discipline, and often the cold removal of comforts that soften your resolve. But nothing is more costly than leaving weakness alive within you, for it is the parasite that consumes strength from the inside. The truth is simple. You either destroy your weakness, or your weakness destroys you. The man who fails to command himself will inevitably be commanded by another. Control is the first throne, and if you do not sit upon it, someone else surely will. Consider how impulses enslave those who believe themselves free. A man who cannot master his anger can be provoked into ruin with a single insult. A man who cannot govern his desires can be led by the promise of pleasure into traps of humiliation. A man who cannot silence his fear will bend his knee to any hand that threatens him. These are not men. They are puppets, their strings pulled by whoever knows where their weakness lies. The illusion of freedom is strong in those who lack discipline. They believe their choices are their own. But in truth, every uncontrolled appetite is a chain, and every chain has a master waiting to seize it. You may think yourself clever, but if you cannot restrain yourself, then the one who can restrain you already owns you. He does not need to fight you. He needs only to offer what you crave or to strike where you tremble. This is why control of the self is not luxury, but survival. Those who dominate others do so first by dominating themselves. They silence impulses until they strike by choice, not by compulsion. They turn desire into tool, fear into calculation, anger into fuel, but never allow any of these to hold the reins. To master yourself is to become unpredictable, for then no insult can provoke you, no temptation can ensnare you, no threat can sway you. You remain in command when others are drowning in reaction, and in that calm, in that stillness, lies the advantage that crushes every rival. Self-control is more than resistance. It is the weapon that denies others their leverage. To reveal no buttons to push, no strings to pull, no wound to press, is to leave your enemies powerless before you. For while they may be clever, all their schemes rely upon your weakness. If there is no weakness to exploit, their cleverness collapses into nothing. The man who governs himself is the only man who cannot be ruled. Not every weakness can be destroyed in an instant, but none should ever be displayed. To reveal a flaw is to place a weapon in the hand of another, and to trust that they will never use it. Such trust is folly. Men may smile at you, swear loyalty, even speak of love, but if ambition or survival demands it, they will remember that weakness and strike where you are exposed. The clever conceal what they cannot yet eliminate, covering their fractures as stone hides the cracks in its foundation. A man who openly shows his fragility believes it will earn him mercy. He hopes for compassion, for understanding, for protection. Yet what he invites is manipulation. Mercy is rare, and when it is given, it is seldom without cost. To expose your weakness is to grant permission for others to manage you, to handle you, to decide how far you may rise. They will let you speak, but not too loudly. They will let you act, but not too boldly. They will hold you in their hand as one holds a delicate glass, not out of care, but because it is easy to break. Concealment, then, becomes a shield. To hide your weakness is to deny others their leverage. It buys time, it buys freedom, it buys the space you need to transform that flaw into something less fatal. A man who keeps his burdens unseen walks among wolves unnoticed, for the wolves circle only the wounded. To appear whole, even when you are not, is to survive until you can truly become whole. Even allies must be kept blind to the truths that can weaken you, for today's ally may be tomorrow's rival. What is confessed in trust becomes a weapon in betrayal. The less others know of your limitations, the more they will imagine you without them. Fear often comes not from what a man is, but from what others suspect he might be. Concealment feeds this uncertainty, and uncertainty breeds caution. You may not always be able to crush your weakness at once, but you must never allow it to be seen. The man who bleeds openly dies quickly. The man who hides his wound has a chance to heal before the final battle begins. What you cannot erase, you must transform. To leave a weakness as it is makes you vulnerable, but to disguise it as strength turns it into a trap for those who would exploit it. Men rarely question what appears powerful. They lean against it, they trust it, and they underestimate the danger hidden within. A flaw that is concealed is safe, but a flaw that is turned into a weapon becomes deadly. Consider how hunger for approval may be twisted into charm. The man who once begged for acceptance learns to wield the art of pleasing as a tool, bending others to his will while masking his true intention. What began as dependency becomes dominance, for now his weakness manipulates rather than enslaves him. Or think of fear, often despised, often mocked. Yet fear sharpens the senses, sharpens caution, sharpens calculation. When wielded properly, what others call cowardice becomes foresight, the ability to avoid traps and set them for others. This transformation demands cunning. It requires that you look at what diminishes you and ask not how to erase it, but how to twist it until it serves you. The world sees only what you present. If you cloak your weakness in the robes of strength, few will ever dare to strip them away to see what lies beneath. And in their failure to question, you hold the advantage. To turn weakness into a weapon also confuses your rivals. They strike where they believe you fragile, only to find themselves ensnared. They underestimate, they miscalculate, they reveal their hand too quickly. What they thought would undo you becomes the very snare that destroys them. For in believing they hold the key to your downfall, they walk willingly into your control. Power is not found in perfection. It is found in mastery of imperfection. The man who hides his flaws is clever. The man who makes his flaws into chains for others is dangerous. There is no room for mercy when dealing with that which weakens you. Whatever slows your hand, clouds your judgment, or softens your will must be treated as an enemy, for it serves your ruin as surely as any rival. Men often cling to their weaknesses because they mistake them for comforts, sentiment that blinds them, attachments that weigh them down, indulgences that erode their discipline. They whisper to themselves that these are small things, harmless, even human. Yet it is the small crack in the stone that shatters the wall when pressure comes. What seems harmless now becomes fatal later. Ruthlessness begins with honesty. To look at yourself without lies, without excuses, and without sentimentality. If a friendship weakens you, it must be cut. If an indulgence makes you predictable, it must be denied. If an attachment bends your will, it must be broken. There is no cruelty in this, only necessity. For every weakness tolerated is an opening offered to the world, and the world never fails to exploit what it is freely given. Men fall because they hesitate. They convince themselves they can carry their weakness and still rise to power. But weakness is not a weight you carry. It is a chain tied to your enemy's hand. The longer you keep it, the tighter they will pull. To hesitate is to give others time to discover it, to sharpen it, to turn it against you. This is why the strong cut without delay. They do not weep for what is lost, for what is lost would have destroyed them. They see that self-pity is a slower death, and sentiment a disguised poison. Discipline is their blade, and they wield it against anything that dares to soften their resolve. In time, their strength is no longer divided, no longer compromised, no longer open to manipulation. The man who spares his weakness condemns himself. The man who crushes it spares nothing and gains everything. Power is never given to the hesitant, nor to the indulgent, nor to those who excuse the chains that bind them. It belongs only to the ruthless, for only the ruthless have the will to strip themselves of weakness and rise above the common herd. Men who tolerate their fragility call it humanity, but what they name as virtue is nothing more than surrender dressed in softer words. They cling to comforts, they cradle attachments, they console themselves with excuses, and in doing so they accept their place as ruled, not rulers. To crush weakness is not simply to survive, it is to command. For the world does not bend to those who half conquer themselves. It bends to those who show no fracture, no hesitation, no indulgence that can be turned against them. The ruthless are not loved, but they are obeyed. And obedience is worth more than love, for love dies in an instant, but fear and respect endure. Weakness is a luxury reserved for the powerless. The strong cannot afford it. To be ruthless with yourself is to become untouchable by others, for if you deny your own comforts, no rival can threaten them. If you cut your own chains, no enemy can pull them. In this way, the ruthless man becomes free, while the merciful to themselves remain enslaved. The truth is cold, but it is unshakable. Only those willing to crush their weakness will ever be fit to rule.